So I wanted to record this book review before the entire train started to fill up with the filthy animals that make up their species, but unfortunately, I'm running late.
Oh, look how cute this is. I'm on the train on the way to my shitty day job, trying to record a book review so that I can get at least one of the millions of things that I gotta get done for myself done. This is what the life of most working writers looks like. You don't sleep, you don't eat a lot, you are frustrated constantly, and people think that you're a lazy fucker. So I'm telling you about how I decided that I wanted to review Jeff Gephart's book as I read it, because I found that when I was reviewing Kevin McCallion's book, after I read the whole thing, I forgot all the specific shit that happened. Unfortunately, my memory span is so short right now that I've also forgotten most of what was in Jeff Gephart's book as I went, so this is going to be a hot mess. So I've been reviewing a lot of fiction that's a lot like my own. It's dark and not very romantic, and like Kevin McCallion's book Morristown about suicide. So I decided to review something a little bit lighter, romance centric. Jeff Gephart's book is called Accidental Adulthood, and it's about kind of growing up while you're dating, which seems like the kind of thing I would never fucking read, but I've decided to branch out into light summer reading. Did I mention I've already also done some light summer writing? Yes, Disaster Fitness. Look for it on Amazon. Out now.
Let's review. Oh, Jesus Christ. Losing my fucking marbles. Anyway.
So what was I talking about as I sat here on the train talking to myself like a fucking bag lady with a headset on, and it didn't work anyway because it's too loud on the train, and I don't think I have that thing close enough to my face anyway. Well, I started out by bitching about how the biggest, smelliest person on the train always sits next to me because humans can smell misanthropes, and therefore they sit next to the most misanthropic person on the train, which is always me. But what did I think of Jeff Gephart's book? Get to the fucking review. Okay, so I'm saying it's actually quite enjoyable. Gephart has tackled, in love and romance, he has tackled an unexpectedly tricky, tough subject. Everybody wants to read a romance, but dating is something that makes you feel horrible, sad, and angry, and yet it is not something that translates well into great tragedy most of the time. There's a lot more Electra and Oedipus than there is Romeo and Juliet, because it's so mundane. So many people go through heartbreak every day. Yes, it's universal, but it's hard to feel sad because it happens so often. It's almost like losing relatives. If you're on a train like this, I say with a hand gesture, 50% of them probably lost somebody just this year. But you're not going to be able to see every one of these millions of instances as a tragedy. Most people suffer in really boring ways, which makes their suffering even worse and also not food for literature. Look at me noticing the lipstick all over my fucking vampire fangs right there. Okay, so now I'm bitching again because the public can remember lots of famous movie stars but not writers, so no one will probably read Gephart's book anyway besides me and 10 other people. Even though it's a perfectly well done book, there's just too much crap out there for people to pick up on anything. This is becoming a theme with me. Anyway, I'm enjoying the book, but I'm not getting a lot of deep feelings out of it. But that's not what it is meant to do as written. Although there is a nice meditation for people my age in there about that squash between generations feeling, where you no longer think everything you do is pregnant with meaning because it's no longer part of the plot unfolding. Shit's already happened. You're sort of in the middle of the story, and the details are no longer so important. So by the time you're in the thick of the plot, you're not looking for meaning in every little blade of grass. You're looking for a way to survive. Actually, for most of us, even at the beginning of the plot, we were just looking for a way to survive, but we weren't quite as jaded towards survival as we are these days.
I should do this more often. This train is almost entirely full, and yet because I'm talking to a computer, I'm like a crazy person. No one is sitting next to me. That seat is totally empty. I'm gonna do this every fucking morning.
Okay, thank you.
Someone just sat down next to me. It is Tuesday or Wednesday. It's 6 at night, I think. It's a
few days after I originally started reviewing Gephart's book. Was I even reading it on the way home? I don't know. I have that Cinerama song about your significant other saying you look too thin running through my head, because I just added another part-time job because I'm trying to get to a point where I can just write and do videos and
just say do creative shit, bitch. You can't make videos.
Write
it's pretty
book reviews
clear.
And write books, but to try and get to that point, I've been working so much that I can't even think straight anymore. I'm sure a lot of people think that writers sound like we're whining when we say that we have to work extra, and I'm sure that actually is whining if you're on dad's payroll or are in some other sort of lucky situation. But for people who aren't so lucky, fuck you, quit calling me. Just don't fucking call me. Just leave me the fuck alone. Fucking telemarketers. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, I'm losing my mind. Some shit on my... Yes, I've got some shit on my shirt. I'll find that song for you. So you want to know exactly how bad the market is for writers right now? I have had a plan to move with my boyfriend to New York City so that I will actually have a few opportunities that I haven't had throughout my life because of... Next person that tells me about white privilege is going to get my geographical not privilege shoved directly up their ass. Anyway, I had this plan to move to New York City with my boyfriend to actually get close to places where I could do the bullshit networking that you need to get a job or a publishing deal that's actually going somewhere. So I went through a lengthy hiring process. You know, to move, you need to, especially to New York City, you need to have a job secured in advance where you know that you can make money. So I went through the lengthy hiring process at this, it's Sunday morning. I was having a nice Sunday morning and putting on a face mask and getting my shit together when I found this out. After going through a lengthy hiring process, which included a few hours of writing samples back and forth via email to a startup company, about a week before I was supposed to start working for them, it was actually only a part-time job, but that's what you can get these days. It was going to be the cornerstone of my economic plan to be able to be location independent so that I could get this whole thing going. They just decided to make up some bullshit reason to just suddenly not hire me a week before I was supposed to start working for them. And they can do that because there are millions of you motherfuckers out there have to go through this lengthy hiring process to weed out the people who think that they can edit because they proofread their buddy's paper in college once. And then there are still so many people who actually have the skills that they can just decide to toss you away and there's no consequence for them. So quit breeding, quit telling your kids to be writers. I mean, just like every labor pool, it's severely overstocked. As a friend of mine was saying, a friend of mine who's definitely not a socialist, it's almost enough to make you a socialist, because with the whole endless waves of immigration and people breeding like rats and just automation even of the writing process, you know, there used to be people who did the job that spell check does now. We're making work infinitely more efficient so that we need fewer people, but we're breeding and letting in more fucking people. So it gets harder and harder and harder to put together a decent income. So I guess the upshot of this is, please donate to my Patreon because I'm begging for money. People who bitch about people who beg for money via Patreon, I can't wait until their skill set is completely devalued by the labor market. I will never be a socialist, but I don't think capitalism is quite fair when we keep expanding the labor pool infinitely. I mean, supply and demand. If you keep adding supply and reducing demand, then the price of a good, in this case myself, is going to keep plummeting, and that good is going to become worth less than toilet paper. I'm very good at what I do, but that doesn't make any difference. Which is another reason you should buy my book, because my new book, Disaster Fitness, is all about something that you can actually control. Staying in shape is something that you can actually control. Like this morning, when this shit awful thing happened to me and my plan was just fucked because someone else could just fuck me over. Instead going to work out. And that won't make everything better, but it will at least make the handful of things that I can control better. And that's what my book is about. It's controlling the handful of things that you can control. It took me a long time to learn that having a tantrum and getting drunk when the things that you can't control fuck you over is not hurting the people who fucked you. It's only hurting yourself. It's a surprisingly hard lesson to learn, but once you learn it, it doesn't make things better, but at least you aren't helping the people who have just shoved their cock 20 inches up your ass. Oh yeah, Jeff's book. I'm getting close to the end. I'm trying not to show you my boobs here, don't move it that way, move it that way. Okay. Jeff's book. So far it looks like the ending is wrapping up in a little bit too pat of a way for my taste, but it's really well done, and it's the kind of thing that I wish more of us had more time to read instead of just... You'll probably be all insulted that I called it normie fiction, but in a way that's kind of a compliment. The book is about sort of letting go of your pretenses, which is sort of what writers have to do now. You can't think of yourself, no matter how smart you are, how good you are at what you do, you can't think of yourself as an important genius because you'll just look more and more ridiculous as the world treats you increasingly like toilet paper. And so I'm not going to, well, like I said, it wraps up a little bit too patly for me to be able to give spoilers. There are surprises. It's fun to read. But thematically, it's about sort of having any sense of self-importance slowly crushed out of you and getting what you can back out of your relationships with other humans and other unimportant mammals. So yeah, it's not an earth-shattering book. It's not meant to be an earth-shattering book. But it's the kind of thing that I wish I had the time and energy to read more often instead of just sitting down in front of some like Marvel Comics cartoon-based superhero show that I really enjoy, but which, people like myself can't participate in because, well, what happened to my sitcom is a completely different angry video. I should stop calling these grumpy book reviews and call them angry book reviews. But anyway, he's probably going to want to stab my eyes out for calling it normie fiction, but it's a very good example of normie fiction, and it was an enjoyable read. I haven't read the first few pages yet. Maybe I'll have to make, a tag on into the video, like, shit, everyone died in the end, and it suddenly turned into something more existential than Camus, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think this may well be the end of the review, but it won't be the end of my half-seriously begging you to give to my Patreon so that I can stop chasing bullshit jobs that are sort of being dangled in front of my face and pulled away by assholes just because they can. I wasted so much time getting this job that they just suddenly decided didn't exist. I needed to have been spending that time writing a novel. So if you want to, I mean, I have a novel pretty much finished, but I don't have time to polish the query letter properly and finish doing a revision. I have another novel going. I haven't worked on that in months because I keep having to make money. So, yeah, I'm basically asking you to release me from this sort of Doctor Who-like time prison. I feel like a Doctor Who villain who's been trapped in some kind of time bubble, except I didn't actually do it. Doctor Who has sort of mistaken me for a criminal and has trapped me in this bubble where I never get the time to do the things that I need to get done. So if you could help release a Doctor Who mistaken identity non-villain from the time bubble where they don't have time to get anything done, that would be awesome. I will post the link to my Patreon below. You could also donate to my PayPal account because I get 100% of the money. No, not 100%. I think 98% of the money if you donate to me through PayPal. My PayPal email address, I'll post that down below too. Oh, isn't that cute? I'm doing that thing that people do on YouTube where they point down at shit lower on the screen. They're like, look, I know what's below me. I'm self-aware. Look at me breaking the fourth wall. Assholes. Anyway, yeah, I need to escape from this shit. And you can help. Thank you.
Everyone thinks that I love them.
Hey, this is scary.
It's